Okay, let's see if I'm live this time. This is not again, I'm having this whole like bedroom rendezvous. As fun as it is, it's not the best lighting. Unless you like action movies, in which case I could move downstairs, but that's definitely what's happening. Ah, there I am. Okay. All right. So I am. Oh, and there's the. Okay. All right. Now I'm organized. I love lives except this part. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about mood versus your vibration, or I guess your like emotional energy, because they're very different. And there's a pervasive myth that whatever you just need to be happy, and you'll be able to create whatever you want. And I get where it comes from, and I might have probably believed this myself a little before I really understood what was going on. And it doesn't help that The Secret seems to be where a lot of people got their original like exposure to manifesting, and that basically just the way that they presented it in all these little sound bites is that you just needed to feel really amazing and keep your thoughts in line and everything was going to work out. But there's more details to that. So and I mean, I read The Secret after I already was creating things, and I was like, yeah, this makes sense. But now when I look at it kind of from the outside, trying to explain to people what it is, I really understand why there is that, I guess, misconception. Because so like if it was really about just keeping your mood high and thinking good thoughts, and you just like moving your negative perceptions about another person, everybody would be able to just create really quickly whatever they wanted. But I talk to a lot of people that struggle, and I know that I have struggled in certain areas and not in others. So I was kind of able to like see, well, what's going on here? Like, why is it harder for me to create? And so it has nothing. Hello. Hi, Serena. It even tells me your name this time. Awesome. So I know that I was able to kind of take a look and see like what's the difference in what's happening. And so the difference is so your mood, that's kind of something that you feel in any given moment about any specific topic, but your vibration is made up of more than just whatever emotional mood you're in. There's so to kind of give you an idea, like you can have two people in a really good mood and they're going to have two different vibrations. So the best illustration I could give to kind of give you a sense of this is to say, imagine a 2-year-old. Okay, so anyone that has children will really be able to understand this. So imagine one of your children at 2, and then imagine one of your children at like 17 or 18. Even when they're in a good mood, and for those of you that don't have kids, sorry, because I like to be inclusive, is so just imagine a 2-year-old and then that same 2-year-old as an adult. We're very different. I mean, hi. I can't tell who it is yet. It doesn't tell me. Oh, it's Karen. Hi, Karen. Yeah, so we're very different because that 2-year-old has like unobliterated joy. That 2-year-old is not carrying all these ideas of who it's okay to be and who it's not okay to be. That it's, what kind of laughter is okay to experience versus what kind of laughter isn't. And so these things affect your being, right? These 2-year-olds, a baby or a 2-year-old, they'll just, throw up and continue on happily because they're not carrying all the judgment. They haven't experienced, maybe some haven't, that's very sad. But I'm talking about, just, I guess, as a blanket, that they are not carrying the shame. They are not seeing themselves through other people's reactions yet. They still really are in that sense of like, just like pure curiosity and joy. And yeah, and adults, we don't have that. We we vibrate differently because we have all the rejections. We have all the good girls, good boys, do this or don't do this. Why you're wrong, why you're bad. I mean, it's so we carry that in our vibration. You have, because it's emotions that drive us essentially, to choose things, choose our way of being. So, I mean, so for example, you know, good girls or good boys do this or don't do this only has meaning because at some point it was installed with like fear or shame or judgment or rejection. Yeah, children also have a lot fewer worries and stress. And the thing is, a lot of our worries and stress, they come from also previous experiences that we've had, so that we take all of this into our being. And so this kind of creates who we are. I never used to be a person who could get online and screw up. I was so like buttoned up and tight. Like I just really had a hard time even, I mean, and she takes over sometimes. My self-doubt and just totally took over earlier today and had a conversation in my place. And it wasn't until I was kind of going through this with some reflection that I realized, oh, she totally threw the bag over my head and took over there. And so, you know, understanding that I have these things helps me be able to see them. And then in the future, I can kind of step in when that part of me steps in and basically is looking to keep me safe. It's looking for me not to experience the rejection, to experience the judgment and the emotional pain and the guilt and the shame or whatever it is that is used to sort of create, you know, these individuals that we are. We go through this individualization process, and it's a highly emotional process. And then we attach it to the words and give it a meaning. And then we basically use it to kind of corral ourselves. There was a time that I would not go places or do things because I was worried about other people's responses. And so in essence, whether they said anything or not, I was basically restraining myself. I had created my own little prison. And so this also comes with, as we begin to move up our vibration, we have to learn to be okay with other people's discomfort. And I'll talk about that a little more in a different video, because this is sort of how we sort of interact at an energetic level with behavior, because behavior is the highest level of energy. And it in essence, is so often an emotional response. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So, I mean, when we talk about energy and we talk about like vibration, so there is sort of a way that you feel in any given situation, or that you feel about yourself, and these are your vibration, and they don't come from your mood. Although the benefit is that your mood increases as you drop these things, because you don't have those thoughts, right? There was a time in my life where swearing was like, no, doesn't happen. And I mean, I've been known to swear in front of my mother, and I'd reached a point where I was like, well, I mean, that's her perception. Swearing is my perception of it, is that it's not good or bad. It's an emotional expression, right? So if I say, put on your darn shoes, I'm not getting my frustration across as much as I would if I said, put on your effing shoes, right? So you can kind of see. And so I had to give myself permission to no longer basically be, led around by what I will and won't do based on other people's perceptions of it. And so slowly untangling these things allows your entire vibration to rise. Now, the caveat of this is that you can process out smaller things like that by learning to be okay with people's discomfort. But when your vibration is hooked into yeah, shoes. I like shoes. I don't know what to say. And when we have these senses of what makes us good or what makes us worthy or what makes us okay, these things kind of have like hooks into our energy, kind of pulling it down, like, when you hang ornaments on a tree. And again, I'm stepping right out of inclusivity here. And, but, anybody, even earrings, when I hang these earrings in my ears hang a little lower. Your energy is the same way. And so you basically need to be able to begin to process these things out. And so this is where that emotional healing component comes in. And so as I mentioned, what happens is as you expand your vibration, so whether it's because you are really releasing like negative experiences that you've had, or you will no longer subscribe to ideas of what's okay and what's not okay. And a lot of these are from society. And because it's interesting, because we pass information down through our genes, that's something that affected people, say in Victorian times, will on a subconscious energetic level still be running in your vibration if you don't actively notice it and release it. So for example, I know that there are, I know that I have a friend in England, and at one point in time in England, around Victorian times, or maybe it was Elizabethan times, they had like this cage that they would put on women's mouths with like a razor to hold so that they would cut their tongue if they spoke. Like horrendous. And it was for basically because women were taught to sort of what they could and what they couldn't say. And so this sort of thing really still runs through our cultures, and some of it is unspoken. Some of it just comes from that energetic information. And so, as I said, you having awareness of these things allows you to notice when you essentially are kind of moving into that. And that's a little bit off topic. And so, creating something is it's not about your mood at all. I've created things in a bad mood. It's really more about sort of your overall energy about something. And so your overall energy is also not just at an energetic sense, it's at a biological sense. If you experience a lot of stress, your body shuts it down. It's called dorsal vagal shutdown, and it's because the stress response is so bad for you. I mean, it causes like weight gain in areas that are especially, or it can cause weight loss if it causes you to stop being able to eat. It ages your cells, it lowers your immune system, it could cause a heart attack. So basically your body, when you experience these emotional things that you often don't have a way to resolve, especially when you're young, you will go into dorsal vagal shutdown, and then your body kind of traps that response in there. And so this is often at a time where you don't have accurate language. So it's very much an emotional thing. And so in addition to that, now things in the environment, because your body is reading things from the environment all the time, really subtle things that you're not noticing. So you can tell just by the way someone stands what their intention is, even if you aren't consciously aware of it. You can feel their vibration. And you can actually tell people who have a lot of repressed repressed pain, because this is the reason that you become triggered so easily, because that energy is still like running in you, and that dorsal vagal shutdown kind of just put a cap on it. So it's still there, and it's really easy to kind of get to spark in environments that match. And so for people that have a lot of them, they are highly triggered all the time, or very easily. And it's really just a response to something that's unresolved. And so that's why really the key to if you aren't able to create something in an area, then you're carrying something in your state of being, in your emotional, energetic body that kind of is essentially trying to keep you safe, because your body is always trying to move you away from pain. So it will, in essence, cause you to react to things in the past that caused pain. And often, so for a lot of us in this group, people are trying to, they want to manifest a specific person back. And so if you want to manifest a specific person back, the fact that there is separation in the beginning is because, in essence, not often only you, but two people are basically replaying out their wounding, or replaying out basically this like energetic dance. And so as you behave in one way because you've been triggered, they behave in another way. And as I put in another post that I did, when we go into defensive position, it comes across to other people as offensive. And so as you went into this protection position to protect yourself from the pain that you were experiencing, they took that as defensive, and they went into a protective position, which looked to you as offensive, and you kind of just keep things in play. And so it's never really about just like ignoring what's going on, because often if you're coming from a place of you don't really believe that you deserve better, then you kind of are keeping yourself in this pattern of, I mean, I know people who will kind of create themselves into one horrific relationship after another, and it has everything to do with your psyche. Will it pull you in to try to resolve that, to try to shift that experience where you made a meaning about yourself that was really negative, so that you can begin to work through that and go back to your original sense of wholeness. And so for this reason, creating a relationship back is a lot of work. I don't work with everybody I talk to, because I don't really believe everybody, not that they can't create the relationship, but that they can't, that work is a lot, and that I don't necessarily see that they're able to or ready to do that. And so they kind of have some steps that they usually need to take in regards to just dealing with their emotional place, because creating a relationship, reconciling it, is not about thinking your way into it often. I mean, maybe for some people it is, but I've seen people think their way into it and then their emotions eject them right out of it. So it's sort of like, if you want to create something, you have to have a lot of self-reflection, and you have to be willing to do the emotional work. I, a long time ago, recognized that this was what was happening, and have, in essence, looked at all the parts of my relationship that caused me pain. And when I was done blaming my husband, I would look more introspectively at what's going on for me. Like, what are all these beliefs that are coming up that I'm feeling this need to protect myself, to seek safety, basically. And so I now just use it, I guess, maybe as a giant eraser. I slowly can go through, and what I find is that as I remove these things, I'm unbothered by them, and they go away, because my energy shifts. And I'm not attached to an outcome. So this was a big one for me, and I detached very early in the process. But a lot of us, and I made a video about this, somewhere. And it's basically the reason if you want to reconcile a relationship, it's really important to look at why. Because the reason that you want to recreate that relationship may also be the reason that you're not able to. Um, and so it has to do with like all the meanings that we have around the relationship and what it means if it separates. And so all of these are part of that emotional clearing. So we often have these senses of like feeling like we're failing, or really like stepping into that and identifying with that sense of rejection. But you have to be able to begin to clear that away in order to shift perspective, because your perspective really does affect what you're creating. But I'm completely off topic. Are you surprised? So, emotionally sensitive people, do they manifest more easily? I can understand how this would be a belief. The answer is no. I know lots of really emotionally sensitive people, and they don't manifest that easily. And it has more to do with a lot of the stuff that I talked about before, like what kind of resistance do you have? So, emotionally sensitive people that cry very easily could essentially just be really connected to their emotions, or those are people with their heart really open, so they can cry for joy. But often what happens too, and so this is where you really need to know yourself, is that people who have experienced a lot of pain and they have repressed it, they will often cry as well, because they are holding a lot of grief. And so this is where knowing yourself is really important, to being able to determine which side are you able to put yourself. The key is to ask, am I able to put myself in a vulnerable position without feeling the need to protect myself? Can I admit to my downfalls and just be, can I accept someone's criticism and not take it in? All these things are going to give you, can I admit to when I was wrong and not expect anyone to do or say anything? I know that being vulnerable can sometimes mean apologizing and recognizing the other person is not open to accept your apology and being okay with that. So this is vulnerability, and this is where your heart is open. So like, there is sort of like another pervasive idea that, and it comes from the idea that feeling is the secret. And so that's not wrong. Feeling is the secret. But I've heard people say things like, in order to attract or manifest money, you have to vibrate with money. Well, you would be dead, because money has a very low vibrational, like it's at a low vibration. It's solid, it's inanimate. You are a living creature. Could you vibrate at abundance? Sure. Do you have to vibrate at abundance? No. So the misconception, as I said, comes from the idea that feeling is the secret, and feeling really is the secret. But it's not that you have to feel like you're in love all the time to manifest love. I know even if you really start to comb Neville's work, you will see that he actually talks about it being the sense of relief. So anybody that thinks about what it is that they want to have, what they want to create in their life, they feel relief if they think about having it. And so when you are safe, you feel relief. When you are confident, you feel that same sense of calm. When you are in trust, you are in that calm. Neutral emotions are the ones, that's the feeling you want to get to. And so he does say this, but you can just simply create from that sense of calm trust, calm relief. because that is the sense that you have when you have the thing, when it's just natural to you. I know that I've talked about like creating from that, like from love, because I've made it a habit of opening my heart center, moving into my heart space. They call that the seat of divinity for a reason. Your heart field expands. I think it's something like 10 times beyond the field of energy that your brain puts out. So we actually, and your heart space is all about being connected to someone else. True love is not about judgment. It's not about control. It's not about making someone be something so that you can have them. It's not about them loving you back. It's something completely different. And so I like to go there probably because it just feels really fantastic. But I also know from that space, I'm not operating from any of my like, sneaky internal insecurities. I'm really okay to just let other people be and do what they want to be and do from there. And so that is essentially where you are, love. I am in a complete state of peace and calm from there. But what requires you to get there is to move all the stuff out of the way and then just practice, because it's like a muscle. But you have to move, I guess, all the stuff that is in the way of really accessing that around any specific subject. So it's really hard to get into the heart space when you're feeling that someone is wronging you, or when you are feeling, coming sort of from that victim perspective, that something is happening to you. You're not going to be accessing your heart space, because it's not really an emotion place, if that makes sense. Because the way that we feel emotion is we're often, so love, for example, we're often experiencing love through the sense of receiving. But when you're in your heart space, you are sending it out. You're giving it, and you are not expecting to receive. And so when I used to call it pumping love, that was really, I recognize in hindsight, that was really, I guess, misguiding. Because in order to pump love, I guess that's what it feels like, but I'm really just opening that willingness to be vulnerable, that willingness to just say, I love you, and I really just accept whatever it is that you want. I need nothing from you, but I can still love you, and even if you hate me right now. So that's kind of what that difference is, if that makes sense. And so when you want to create, it's less about being emotionally sensitive, and it's really more about becoming embodied. Because what happens is, as I mentioned, when we have these extreme negative emotional experiences, which we then proceed to go project about throughout our life, as we attempt to resolve them, we will move up into our left brain. So we don't actually experience the emotional part. We go up and we define it, and then we create a plan and we give it meaning, and and so we are experiencing this emotional thing from our head, and not even the part of your mind that's in charge of your emotions. It's the part of your mind that's in charge of like planning and organizing. So in order to become, to move into a place where you are creating more easily, you want to start by becoming embodied, and from there doing that emotional clearing, because the embodiment work will allow you to notice what's happening in your body, because your body is as I mentioned before, really is your unconscious mind. It's not this great and powerful Oz that it can kind of be sold as. This is why, so I remember reading a book by Joseph Murphy, and he gives an example of an opera singer. And so the opera singer was overcome by like a sense of fear. And he said in that moment, he recognized it was just that little boy that inside of him that had been ridiculed in front of an audience. And so in the moment, he was able to move himself out of that experience by speaking loudly and basically saying like, nope, I'm in charge, and clapping. And so this is kind of a thing that I've suggested people use, is because when you clap, you become embodied. You move out of your head, and it's in your head, if that makes sense, that feeling. It starts in your body, and then we give it a meaning because we immediately move up into the left mind. And so it's like we say, oh, this feeling is because of this, and then we connect it to something, an experience we've had. So in order to be able to overcome these, it helps to really understand what's going on in your body. We went to go discuss some things with our fridge issue, and I didn't like what they were saying. And I kind of took that opportunity to step back and almost observe what was happening. I could feel like my heart was pounding. I was getting very angry. And it was a really strange sensation because I don't think I had ever been that present with anger before. And it was like I could feel all the blood rushing through my fingers and through my face. But I wasn't really responding because I was just being really present with the anger. And I was able to let it just pass. And then just really respond rather than basically acting from my unconscious, which is kind of what was wanting to happen. And so if you want to be able to move into that calm, confident space, you begin to become embodied, you clear out your emotional stuff, and then you work on something called stress tolerance. Yeah, stress tolerance. Because in essence, that's what fearless or confident people have. It's not that they are completely unbothered. It's that they are aware of what's happening, but they are not running with it. They are not being pulled over by a wave, like as if a wave came up and just took them out. They recognize what's happening, but they maintain all of their reasoning faculties, right? So if I were to use an example for manifesting in a relationship, there were times when I'm creating this thing and I am not always getting the response that I want. So I remember sitting in the kitchen and basically, even though things were going really, really well, all of a sudden hearing the words, well, we just have to get divorced anyway, because we've just destroyed this relationship far too much. And my immediate response was like that fear and rejection, like it's like a knife in your heart. And your face gets red and the panic happens. But in that moment, I was able to really stay with what I was creating, because I was not really investing in that. I was like, nope, sorry, I'm creating. And in order to do that, you really have to begin to recognize, oh, there's that feeling and it's coming up. Is what I'm experiencing in my world actually mine? My body says it is. But if I'm going to consciously create my life, I have to choose. So hopefully that made sense. That was a little bit rambling. I didn't make that many notes today, so I apologize in advance if I got really off topic. But it's not really about being emotional, because you want neutral, calm confidence, which doesn't necessarily come when you're being dragged around by emotions. So yeah, I'm not sure if you have any questions. I'll wait a couple minutes. I know there's that annoying lag, so don't mind me where I stare at the screen blankly. Okay, I'm gonna guess that's no. Okay, that's officially no. So, okay, hopefully that kind of clarifies that. Sometimes I feel like I've gone off on enough tangents that I did not clear it up. But as always, if it doesn't make sense, then yeah, please either leave something in the comments or just send me a direct message. Oh, how do you know when you've reached neutral? That's a good question. You feel calm. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you think I explain well. I know when I'm listening in my head, it's like, oh my goodness, could you stick to a topic? So how do you know when you've reached neutral? It's very much like that. Like there's almost no emotional response. Being grounded is very similar. I know that I use the tool of becoming really grounded. So when I have maybe been kind of in the middle of a disagreement and I recognize that there's the potential for it to kind of carry on, I am always seeking to find neutral space, because what I've discovered through personal experience is that when I can remove my perceptions, and I'm not saying this like only in your mental space, because if you haven't dealt with the emotions, the mental thing is going to come back because they're connected. Emotions actually help you change your neurological pathways, not thinking. So, or at least thinking does, but it takes a lot longer. So I want to try and find that neutral space where when I think of whatever's going on, I don't have that emotional hook. And again, being embodied is kind of necessary in order to recognize, because sometimes our triggers are really subtle. So, for example, as I said, I had a conversation earlier today where I was 100% in retrospect. I see that I was 100% coming from my own sense of like, you're not doing this right. And because I wasn't really, because that was so subtle and maybe a feeling that's familiar enough to me in certain parts of my life that I didn't recognize it. So it's a lot easier to start with stronger emotions. I know that I have told a lot of people that if you have an argument, like, don't carry that with you into the future, because the guilt, if you are running the emotions of guilt, or you are running the emotions of anger, then you pretty much keep that in play. You're welcome. So you pretty much can keep that in play, right? That energy, because we are energetic beings. So we actually feel one another, even at a distance. And then again, as I mentioned, we are all connected at the level of the superconscious. So we actually feel one another and are aware of one another and are connected to one another in a lot of ways. And so this is why if I don't want an argument or a negative interaction to happen, then I just work through the stuff internally, and I don't need anything from anybody outside of me. And then it just resolves itself. But if I'm carrying that emotion, you can guarantee I'm going to get more of that. So I've always said, like, there's no mistake unless you carry with you that perception of mistake. And so, yeah. And the same as with an argument. I have started an argument here or there, which I say sheepishly, knowing better. And then after the fact, really just as I work through whatever triggered me, and I am able to move that emotion out of my body, that argument, even though I started it, doesn't carry forward. And then I like to test my ability to be vulnerable, because that really is where true connection is. Then I will apologize. But now I don't feel any of that shame either. I can apologize openly and either accept my apology or don't, and I'm okay with both. And so I really am always seeking to find neutral emotion, and it is that calm, trust, confidence, relief. All of these emotions kind of are in there. Unperturbability, I guess, is one way to describe it. Yeah. So the idea is to practice neutral. Well, I would say Yes. I mean, I like to feel emotions. I don't want to I don't want to go around saying, "Yes, feel dead inside," because that's really not kind of where I'm going. But to recognize that anything that you feel triggered by, nobody did that. You already have that in you, and um they really something about what they have done or said, or about the way they're standing, or could be a million things that can trigger that, it causes that to kind of come up, right? Because that's been deemed by your mind and body that that's danger, so essentially it's trying to move you away from that. And so I usually use it as a key to kind of work through so that I can get to neutral. But if you look at it this way, everything really, when we just take it down to its very base, everything just is. There is no good, there is no bad. It's the meanings and the beliefs and the kind of constructs that we create around something that gives it this definition. And so good and bad really as a concept are nothing. It's their emotional experience, right? So when this happens, I feel good because we've made these two connections together. And so that's why something that's good to one person might have zero effect on you because you don't have those meanings created. So ideally, neutral is where nothing has a meaning. Anything can go left or right. It's not good or bad. And so neutral space really does, I guess, at its most literal sense, dissolve reality, because reality is an emotional and, I guess, sensory experience. And so when you get to that neutral space, that monks say, neutral space, neutral emotions dissolve reality. And it's true, because our entire emotional and sensory experience is our reality. And so in order to move one way or the other, and also if you look at it from the perspective of energy, right, it's always looking to seek a balance. So if you're really, really high, then something happens, at a really low level to bring you to that equilibrium. So if you are creating from that space of neutral, you are not as likely to get that balancing force. So there's a lot of reasons that I like to go for neutral, but the main one being that I really have noticed in my life that as I go to neutral, things work themselves out. And really, you don't have that charge anymore. Okay, so celebrate the times you get there. Celebrate that you even identify you missed the opportunity to find neutral. Yes, exactly. I mean, I look at everything as kind of a lesson, or a gift, I guess. It's a gift, or it's a gift that I haven't really, a gift in disguise. So because I can learn something from it that I can level up through, but there is something good that you can find in every experience, no matter how negative. And so I mean, that's a really wishy-washy thing to say. I get it, but also comes down to that foundation of there is no good and there is no bad. There only is. And so I just always try to find the positive in every negative experience. And I've had plenty of negative experiences, but it's a lot easier to get hooked into going down a negative trajectory, or moving into sort of like that victim sense, if I cannot recognize that there is something in here that can propel me forward and upward. So, okay, I have rambled on for 45 minutes and hopefully this was valuable. Next week I'm going to talk about the quantum aspect, how, like, the ways in which we're connected, and that we actually do become quantumly entangled. And you're not quantumly entangled with just everybody. Emotion plays a big role in it. So what a surprise. I'm going to talk about emotions again. But yeah, we really do we are entangled, and so we really do begin to move at the level of emotion with people that we are entangled at, because we are moving together at a distance. All right. So yeah, I'm going to say goodbye because we're coming on to an hour. Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for coming. I appreciate having someone to talk to. It really kind of, it really gets in my head to just talk to my computer. So thanks for coming, and I will see you next week.